Hi folks, welcome to the iWrite Radio podcast videocast of Wednesday, the 17th of June. A bit slow, I suppose, over the last couple of days. I had PMQs today, obviously, which runs into FMQs now. I think we're also going to have a chat about she's an Edinburgh University expert, Devi Sridhar.
Yes, Professor.
Who's been attacked on Twitter, certainly on social media. I don't know if there's been anything in the paper about her. And then I think we need to talk about the standard of our governance from Westminster. But PMQ, Stuart, anything strike you? You were quite impressed with Keir Starmer today, I believe.
Yes, it's quite interesting. A friend of mine sent me a text immediately after PMQs and seemed to think that Keir Starmer had a very bad Prime Minister's questions. I couldn't disagree more. Let's put it this way, the short synopsis is that Keir Starmer twice offered to swap places with the Prime Minister if the Prime Minister wasn't prepared to ask questions. It is, after all, Prime Minister's questions. So twice he offered to swap places with them. The thing is, it's not just the things that Keir Starmer says, it's his timing. You know, that's what they say about an actor or a comedy performer. It's his timing, it's wonderful. So I thought he had a good one. But at the top of actually it was quite interesting because this is a story that's going to run and we don't know too much about. At the very top of the show, Prime Minister's questions, Martin Doherty Hughes, who's an SNP MP, I think he's Scottish. Apparently, this has caused a real row. A woman has been appointed to run a commission. This is basically to chuck it into long grass, into racism, institutional racism, again. And although she's Asian and therefore by definition black, she has got a very strange back catalogue, including she's already said that there's a culture of grievance amongst minorities. So it's a pretty bad start.
She related to Priti Patel at all?
Yeah, well, she could be. There seems to be a coterie of them. One last thing I want to say about that. Apparently, she's come from a group called Living Marxism into Number 10 as an advisor. You would think something called Living Marxism would be a very far left-wing group, but I had no idea why they're picking up their advisors from there. Somebody else will have to tell us.
It was nothing to do with Marxism, mate. It was just a name. They're now spiked. They're now spiked.
Oh, they're spiked.
Aye, that's who these people are.
Ah, now it makes sense.
Everything becomes clear.
All we needed was Jimmy to explain for us.
Ash Sarkar has already been criticised for calling her a doorkeeper member of the BAME community. In other words, one who works for the Tory party to show the brown skin. And that's the main reason that they've got the job in the Tory party, because of their brown skin. They have no real living connection to that community. They've chosen to be what in the past we would have called an Uncle Tom, but we're not allowed to call them Uncle Toms anymore.
Well, I'm glad you made that clear. I don't think I've got much else to say about Prime Minister's questions, to be honest.
I disagree with you slightly, Stuart. I thought Keir Starmer was poor, just on the basis that as much as he sounded good, and he brings up decent, pretty good points every single time, but Boris Johnson effectively ignored all 6 questions today. He didn't give an answer to any of them. So any leader of the opposition that allows himself to be ignored at PMQs is doing a poor job.
That's fair enough. I couldn't disagree with that. He didn't land any hits in that sense. Sometimes we go in performance rather than the.
Aye. He brings up some great stuff. His points. I mean, let's remember the Marcus Rashford thing that's kind of happened this week, and bringing about the school dinner thing. Keir Starmer was banging on about that last week, and if the Tories had anything about them, if Number 10, if Dominic Cummings was half as good as he thinks he is, they'd have sorted that last week before it became snowballed into a massive story over the weekend.
There was a bit of a spat on Twitter about that because the Labour Party had said, oh, the Tories have finally listened to us and, you know, do the school meals. And there was a pile-on basically saying, it wasn't you, it was the footballer that done it. But as you say, Labour have been pushing it for more than a week.
And fair play, the Labour, to their chagrin, should really have got a hold of Marcus Rashford a couple of weeks ago, because long before he put these statements out into the public arena, I believe he'd paid for something like 2 million school dinners from March to about May or so this year. He'd personally, had, not just his money, but he'd raised enough to, with other people, to pay for about 2 million dinners. So at that point, Labour should have been getting a grip of him.
I actually think it was probably more effective. It was easier for them to U-turn using his position as a non-political position.
Absolutely.
It's quite often handy, although it is a political position, it's quite often handy to have somebody that can look neutral if you've got to back down.
Mm-hmm. Although I'm pretty sure you and Stuart are about as cynical as I am to Boris's claim that he didn't understand or hear of Marcus Rashford's position till yesterday morning. I think the Jim Royal phrase, my arse, springs to mind for that one.
Well, that was kind of one of the points that was made. Well, why weren't you listening at PMQs last week?
Well, it doesn't.
I do think that we could do with a bit of Ben Clow in this new speaker, because he let Boris waffle. And it's about time he turned around and said to him, look, you're here to answer questions, answer the questions.
Can we use this as a nice segue into the FMQs, mate? Because I think Ken McIntosh is the worst presiding officer in the history of Holyrood.
One line before we go. It's just to say that Ian Blackford wasn't very good, and he actually brought up Marcus Rashford.
Ian Blackford was a bit Boris today, a bit standing at rabbit in the headlights and blistering. Seems to be Ian Blackford's raison d'etre at the moment.
I think somebody needs to get a hold of him. Sit him down, tell him to shorten it, and his job is to stab Boris in the chest, not to make speeches.
Aye.
That somebody needs to make sure he understands that, because it is getting to the point where I have to take notes because I can't remember what the question was.
And Holyrood's worse for that. I mean, the speechifying that is now allowed as questioning, basically Richard Leonard's the worst of them. But Richard Leonard's allowed to go in for about 3 or 4 minutes and just tack a question mark on at the end.
Aye.
And that's ludicrous, given that Ken McIntosh, as a Labour Party member, should actually be just, it's natural, it's human nature to actually be a bit harder on his own leader than he would be on others. But he's not. He lets Leonard away with absolute murder.
Yeah, but come on. The problem is the First Minister does go on and on and on.
Yeah.
She has never answered a question yes or no since she took over the job.
Well, that's not actually true. She's done it twice.
Okay, twice.
Because I always liked that about Alex Salmond, that occasionally would just stand up and go, no. You know, it sticks in my head and she does it.
It does allow it allows the questioners to go on a bit as well. So
aye, but you know, she's the only one that Ken McIntosh has a pop at, ever.
That was the point I was going to make. I find Ken McIntosh biased.
He is in an extreme unionist organisation. He's signed up to it. Scotland in Union is an extremist political lobby group.
Yeah, but he's got a job to do as chair of the Holyrood Parliament, and
his membership of SIU should have absolutely nothing to do with performance in that chair. And given some of the people that have sat in that chair, some of the distinguished people that have sat in that chair, I would say is an embarrassment. I think there should be a move to remove him.
No.
Well, he's Mr. Nice Guy, but as you say, he does put the boot in a one-sided way. Anyway, that's us on FMQs. So it appears the attack line for the next couple of days is going to be education.
Well, we knew that because it was all flagged in the BBC flagged it all up all across its network, I gather.
Well, one of the problems here is that should it prove to have been a mistake to open schools down south, our press will ignore it.
As ever.
Well, Norrie, I think it's already proved to be a mistake to open schools down south.
Yes, they've already done a U-turn on it.
Well, no, the point I'm making here is the problem now is that regardless of how wrong the opposition are in their arguments, that it never gets reported. I'm not even asking them to be nice to the Scottish government. I'm simply asking them to remember what was said. So when they do the hypocritical U-turn, jump on another boat, whatever, it's pointed out, as is going to be the case for the government as well as for the opposition, they got it wrong because they don't have enough information.
Well,
people are going to get it wrong.
Yeah, they've already got it wrong, as Jimmy pointed out, as I pointed out. They've already done a U-turn in the opening of schools in England.
Well,
the other thing, Norrie, up here is that I think it begins more and more to look like the media have decided to campaign for next year's election now. They've realised that the opposition, there's a paucity of talent there that is palpable. You're looking at Richard Leonard, who, seriously, mate, he couldn't win a raffle if he bought all the tickets, bar one. And Jackson Carlow is equally as bad. And Willie Rennie always performs the same in election campaigns. He brings about some nice photo ops and gets his party up.
Get me to a zoo.
Aye, exactly. So I think we've got the media already in campaign mode, and they've decided that they're going to campaign directly against the Scottish government to try and ensure that we end up with a parliament that is made up very similar to the one that we've already got, because that's our only hope is stopping any forward march on independence.
They're still making
the parliament.
Yeah, but they're still making mistakes. They think they're promoting some sort of really ridiculously anti-independence, anti-Scottish government things, and a lot of the time, to be honest, it's just turning no voters to yes. They're so ridiculous. A lot of what the things.
Well, when we look at some of the questions today, you've got Labour asking for massive investment without in any way indicating where that massive investment's coming from.
Oh, big surprise.
And you've got the Tories basically saying, do this, do that, try this, try that. But by the way, do not at any point refer what all that we are saying to England, because we've tried all that doing there and it's no work.
Well, I mean, one of Jackson Carlow's problems is that he's so bereft of ideas that all he can do is follow Westminster. And they're terrified that Westminster at the moment is shooting itself in the foot. And if that turns out to be the case, it means Tory policy in Scotland was wrong as well.
Yeah, so you look at Jackson Carlow, mate, and we're that close to an election. They're not going to get rid of him now, but they probably see if the election was next December, they'd get shot at him in the summer because he's going to have a disastrous summer.
Well, look what he opened with. As if we don't already know how bad Ruth Davidson is and how she's turned into a liability for the Tories. He brings up the stupid question about the very well-respected Professor Sridhar, who was under attack by Ruth Davidson, apparently. She's right across all kinds of TV channels, not just UK ones.
It wasn't even an attack. It was like, what is it they call it? A savaging by us. What was that quote about Geoffrey Howe when he went to Parliament and ripped Maggie Thatcher? Savaged by a soft toy or some nonsense like that. Aye, but they basically attempted to take some of what Professor Sridhar said in a couple of tweets and turn it against the First Minister and the Scottish Government's policy when Professor Sridhar is an advisor to that Scottish Government.
Well, I'll give you Devi Sridhar's tweet. Nicola Sturgeon and I are completely aligned, and I support her cautious approach to easing lockdown and reopening schools. She has kids and teachers, parents, best interests in mind, so better to go slowly, track virus closely, and make decisions in a reasoned and data-driven way. Now, Ruth Davidson retweeted that with the comment, "Guess someone got the hairdryer treatment over the phone."
Mm-hmm.
I mean, imagine picking on something just because this expert said something that's so closely aligned with what the First Minister had been doing.
Well, here's an idea nobody seems able to grasp. Suppose Nicola Sturgeon is following Devi Sridhar's advice.
Well, it probably is. I mean, if she...
Well, I mean, the presumption is that, you know, Nicola Sturgeon's phoned her up and told her to toe the line. Maybe it's Nicola Sturgeon that's towing her line.
And more to the point, when you've got somebody like Ruth Davidson, who's an expert in nothing, let's be honest, the reason she's got a career in politics is because she was a crap journalist. And you've got a crap journalist trying to second guess a good politician, one who's reached the top of her field, not got so close and then fell away again because they were rotting it, and a world-leading scientist whose opinion has been sought by the likes of the Clinton Foundation in the States. Every news channel in Europe have used her at some point. Even the ridiculous ones in bloody Bulgaria Hungary have had her on at one point. So you've got Ruth Davidson trying to drive a wedge between these two people whose opinions match almost exactly. And you've got daft Colonel Ruffy riding to the rescue in the back of her tank trying to put a wedge in there.
Do you know what I
find? Other than trying to appear relevant to, I'm assuming she's trying to appear relevant to the English Conservative Party because her career in the Scottish Conservative Party is over.
Do you know what I find strange? Ruth Davidson's making a lot more silly mistakes now. A lot more. And I think it's proof that the advice she was getting when she could afford to have advisors was better than her own ability. So now that she's lost her advisors and speechwriters, she's beginning to stumble. We're beginning to see what she really is. Just an idea. Chris Deering also jumped on that bandwagon with a very similar tweet. He also retweeted the Devi Sridhar tweet, and his comment was, someone's had a phone call. So that's Chris Deering back to his normal state.
Well, it's quite funny actually, mate, when you take a look at Scottish Twitter and just how many Tories in particular retweet each other and retweet articles for their favourite newspapers and that. And I'm sorry, but your vote's sitting at about 18% for a reason. Your papers sell less than 20,000 copies a day for a reason. You're not relevant to Scotland. You're not relevant to Scots. What the Tory party are saying, basically, is all geared to one thing. Please, please, please stick with England because England needs your resources. And more Scots are saying that every day.
Would anybody like to see how good the Tories are? I've got a wee clip of Matt Hancock here.
All right. Oh, brilliant. He's always quality for entertainment as an old Mr. I was going to call him Mr. Cock, I better not.
Here we go. Here's...
So, yes, we can have a debate about the past, but I care about getting the future right. And for that, we've got the number of cases each day coming right down, and I want to keep it that way.
Okay, so we could protect ourselves from Brazil by either stopping those flights coming in or monitoring them when they do come in. Which other countries?
Well, I'm not going to go into which ones.
Why not?
Because we're going to take the scientific advice.
Okay. And they are telling us that the quarantine should be in place for now. That's what you're telling us. I'm asking you, because you make the policy collectively as Cabinet, and you tell us day in, day out that you get all of the science and then you make the policy. The policy at the moment is that you are protecting us from people coming in. I've asked you which countries. You've said Brazil. I've said, why don't we monitor the flights from Brazil? Which other countries?
Yes, so what I'm telling you is that the policy is that we have quarantine at the moment from people coming from anywhere else in the world, and we're working on the list of countries where that will be, where you can safely bring people in from.
Okay.
And that will announce towards the end of the month, as Grant Shapps said yesterday. So absolutely, it's based on the science. Of course, all of our judgments are guided by the science. And then you make the policy judgments. And my policy judgment is that, sadly, a quarantine policy is necessary because there are countries where the rate of infection
But you can't tell me any other
well
than
above
Brazil.
1.
But apart from Brazil, which ones?
Well, I'm going to allow the advice to come to us, and then we will make the decisions and announce them at the end of the month, as Grant Shapps said yesterday.
Face.
I really don't know.
I mean, if you're getting tied up in knots by Kay Burley, you kind of, surely that should be your cabinet career over.
It was the look on her face. I mean, that was a real, who do you think you're kidding?
Right. Nori, there's also the thing, after a couple of Brits went to New Zealand, buggered off at the quarantine hotel before they were tested to go to a funeral, and it turns out they were positive. I mean, the only airline that's going to fly us is Pariah Airways, and we'll basically go round in circles around Britain and land back in Britain again because nobody will let us in.
It seems to be the way of it. I think we're going to be begging people to fly into Britain.
I think maybe that's why they brought in the quarantine in the first place, mate, to try and force countries into doing a sort of reciprocal deal where we could go on holiday there if they came on holiday here, but nobody's going to want to come here, and nobody's going to want to let us in.
I'll be frank with you guys. I don't know why they brought this quarantine thing in now, after all this time. It's anti-business.
It defies any kind of logic, mate, but then it's conservative policy, so logic doesn't necessarily come in.
Nori looks as though he knows the answer.
I'll make a prediction on it, okay? That South America, Africa will be quarantined. They'll open up to Australia, New Zealand, Europe, and America. And probably China as well.
Oh, it's getting quite scary in China as well, by the way.
Well, the Africa and South America are not that economically important to us. It's all about economics now. The decisions will all be based on where the money's coming from.
And also, mate, the virus will run rife in these countries at some point this year because they just do not have the medical infrastructure to deal with it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's ravaged Europe, and Europe's probably got the best medical infrastructure on the planet.
I don't disagree, Jimmy, but that, whenever a question like this comes up, from now on, just follow the money.
Aye.
Because it's all about the economy now. It's that simple. That simple.
Oh,
there was a good quote in The Guardian as well today about our present cabinet. When a qualification for being a member of the cabinet is loyalty to bad ideas, it's no surprise Britain is badly governed.
I just throw back one name at you. Remember Chris Grayling?
Yes.
And look how long they hung on to him.
Aye. But half of these boys have been sacked before. Half of them have proved to be inadequate and not up to the job.
Well, Williamson was out of government for leaking state secrets for 3 months, 12 weeks.
Exactly.
Patel, who wanted to give all our charity money to the Israeli army, is now Home Secretary.
Yeah.
Aye. It's astonishing, mate. But then it clearly begins to look deliberate. It begins to look as though Dominic Cummings is more of a Machiavelli than we gave him credit for, because he's managed to get a really malleable Prime Minister to appoint clowns to the cabinet, and basically their advisors are all picked by Dominic. Dominic is probably given a list of who to appoint as advisors by the Elliots. You know what I mean? It all goes back to these
Tufton Street
shady characters for that dodgy street in London, and the worrying thing about that is a lot of the tendrils from into Grafton Street and that, they all come out of bloody Moscow. They're either coming out of the eastern seaboard of America or eastern bloody suburbs in Moscow.
Yeah, well, do you know which bank backed Donald when he went bankrupt? the Deutsche Bank. And they had to bank Boris Donald because they'd invested too heavily with money laundering, money coming out of Moscow. So I mean, it's all tied up.
And that gives us a chance to ask once again, where's the Russia report?
Yeah,
I think it's went on holiday, mate. It's probably jumped on a flight to New Zealand with the two scabby folk that had the virus.
Well, they'll end up just shooting Brits. Oh, you're from Britain. Just come on, come along to this nice red brick wall. So, incompetent Tories, north and south of the border, at least they're staying together.
I remember. Nicola's sign-off with Jackson Carlaw was brilliant. Wonderful piece of phraseology when she was talking about people looking at Jackson Carlaw. Did you clap for it? She said people will be looking and thinking that it is not a particularly appealing picture. I thought, yeah, nice to bring in the phrase appealing picture with Jackson Carlaw.
I forgot about that one. Missed that one.
This was our tirade against the fact that the Tories are now politicking their pants off.
But it's always nice to remind Jackson that we all ken that he's a picture pockler.
Well, I noticed one thing that Monica Lennon, that the First Minister didn't pick up on, which I'm sure you guys would understand. She went on about a constituent not getting his operation. Yes, every single backbencher could find a constituent who's waiting to get their elective operation done. Monica Lennon then said, but public expectations are involved. I can't remember exactly how she put it, but as soon as she said it, I'm thinking, who raises those public expectations? It's that corrupt media. And it's true when you think about it. Why do people suddenly go on marches because of a black guy in America dies under the knee of a corrupt policeman? Because of the media.
I think I'll write a letter to my local MSP, Ben, thanking him for the NHS staying open for me. Because I've had 2 face-to-face appointments and have another one this coming Monday.
Are you quarantined?
During quarantine, just face mask stuff and gloves. But I've been seen. So, you know, okay, I haven't been operated on, but I think I'll write him a letter just saying, I wonder if you could raise in the chamber how grateful I am to the NHS. I've had doctor's appointments as well.
I was thinking that the SNP they kind of give Monica Lennon almost a free ride, but, you know, they're not that harsh on her. They let her bumble on with what she's got to say, but I kind of think that might be because she could be the next big thing in Labour, because look, once Richard gets beat, Jackie Bailey will get the job, but Jackie Bailey will only last 5 minutes. And the reality is, I've got enough gossip on Monica Lennon to absolutely destroy her parliamentary career. So if I've got it, it's surefire that the SNP have got it. So
Monica Lennon,
basically they've got the next 2 Labour leaders in their pocket.
Well, Monica Lennon is, in my book, every time she opens her mouth, I go back a week to see who originally presented the idea or the policy. I don't think she's come up with anything on her own.
Yeah, Scottish Labour are awful, mate. I mean, you're looking at her, or Anas Sarwar, and I'm sorry, but Anas Sarwar, his father had maybe a personality, and that's gone some, because his father had the personality of a wet paper bag.
Anyway, it's yes, we know.
I think that's your next Labour leader.
You think? I don't think he'll get it, mate. I think Sarwar has spent Sarwar Senior spent all his money and all his political capital getting his son to where he is now in the Scottish Labour Party. I don't think there's any left. In fact, I think there's probably a bit of resentment at how far he rose and how quickly.
Well, the Labour Party will be looking for a Muslim Catholic orange man who's black and white with a gay wife, etc. They're going to try and mop up all the wee groups of people. So that's their only chance. Their politics are never going to work. It's going to have to be the politics of culture.
Aye. I'm talking of strange occurrences in Parliament. Did you see the look on Alison Johnston's face when Patty Harvey was asking his question? Honestly, it looked like she'd just stuck a couple of sour plumes in her mouth and it just shook the cheeks right in. There's some real hatred on between that pair.
No, I missed that. And that was a good answer she got out of that question. You missed your targets again. Yeah, but we're the second best performing country in the world.
Aye, that was an interesting point. I didn't know that, but wee Paddy Harvey looks like he's shrinking to me. I think he's been out in the paddling pool too long.
Stuart, anything to finish with?
Not today. I'm hoping to go and fulfil a family obligation and actually sit in a garden with a significant other person.
Charge on.
Yes, I know.
Anybody we know?
Nice.
Jimmy?
Oh, it's a nice afternoon for strolling about and going to the gardens, mate, so do enjoy. I'm going to sit and wait for the football to kick in again, because at that point there's 2 matches a night and I can just ignore social media for 4 hours completely.
Oh well. So who's playing tonight?
The second game's Man City Arsenal. I think the first one's Villa against some other team that are toiling.
And is it on Council TV?
No, these ones aren't on Council, mate. These ones are on BT. No, wait a minute. Sky, I think.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't watch them anyway, so. Okay, guys, thank you for turning out on what is not a terribly exciting day for politics. One thing we didn't mention was Uncle Boris took the presser yesterday because he had good news to announce.
All right.
Aye.
So they've now found it's not a cure, but it assists in the recovery of about 30% of.
Yeah, it's the first thing that comes close to being an effective treatment.
And Boris decided to announce it as a fantastic British achievement. Turns out that the actual stuff that they're using is what, I think it was 1957 it was discovered. So all they were doing was testing old medicine. And there's still at least another 4 or 5 in the trial stage. So who knows? There might be even more good news out of that 4 or 5.
All right.
Good.
So there's some good news for you folks. So thanks for turning out. Stuart Lockhead, Jimmy Hutton. I'm Lloyd Stewart. Thank you for listening and watching, folks. And we'll catch you tomorrow when I've no doubt the Tories will have improved so much we'll all have to eat our words. Cheers for now.
I bet you they haven't.
You bet. Sorry, guys, I've just mucked this up. Cheers for now, folks.